Hello ratbags, it's Jade PLAYSGAMES back again with another Ark Survival Evolved video. Today we're going to be doing something very different. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago I would take a look at all the upcoming features and let you know whether or not they're myth, true or maybe. There's so much that gets said about Ark and about all the items that may be coming, creatures that are happening, gameplay mechanics, new locations. Sometimes it comes from really credible sources like the devs themselves. Even sometimes when the devs have said it, things have changed or it's been such old information you know nothing's happened with it. So I'm going to do my best to go through some stuff using the wiki and lots of my other sources that I normally go to. Now bear in mind this is still opinion, this is still just what I found out in a couple of days of really researching into it. But I still think it's fun and I still think it's informative to go through the stuff and categorically rule out things that haven't actually been confirmed by the devs yet. And we can talk about stuff that might not come until DLC, might come in a future update. That's generally the idea of this video, so let's get on it. So there's a lot of items here. I want to start off with some of the biggest ones. Sea Cave Dungeon and Sunken Obelisk with Underwater Boss. So the idea of a sunken obelisk where it would summon a brand new ocean boss has been around for a while. In fact, this question was asked last May, so that's a year ago nearly. In it, someone asked it would be awesome if in the ocean there was a sunken obelisk covered in kelp, the tip pointing out the surface with a podium to summon an ocean boss. And Jeremy's put, aye Captain, that would certainly be awesome. If you didn't know, there is meant to be a fifth and final boss to go along with the Manticore, the Dragon, the Megapithecus and the Broodmother. So in December this got elaborated on a little bit more. How will the tech cave work? BIRVM asks, will you find the materials to make tech tier objects or will you find the objects themselves in cave? And how will it have guardians to defend the cave? I'm so excited for the tech cave. You can see the tech cave is a super challenging end game cave prior to the final sequence boss. Now everyone's presuming the tech cave is going to be something underwater, and that you may be able to access it through this sunken obelisk, but none of that has actually been confirmed. We don't know what the tech cave actually comprises. If we take a look at some of these screenshots, these seem to be the prototypes for the tech bosses or tech guardians. These look like they are going to be some of the fights you're going to have while trying to get to the final boss fight. You can see here we've got a dodo. Now some of these may be just for literally throwing a red herring a little bit. If the dodo ends up being the final boss, I can imagine a lot of people being pissed off. But we have got quite a good selection here of these technological sort of minded creatures. Another thing to consider is the tech transmitter. Currently it's the only way you can transfer water dinos across maps. So if the final boss fight is in a tech cave underwater or there is a sunken obelisk, maybe this is what we have to actually do and get a tech transmitter to unlock it. So far the tech transmitter is pretty useless. So returning to the question then, is the tech cave true and what is the tech cave going to consist of? Yes, it is true, it's not a myth, it is coming, it's going to be one of the last caves that we'll actually fight through to get to the end boss. And in terms of what the final boss is, any cryptic hints to what the Uber boss might be, and have replied it's not an earth culture mythical creature. So could it really be some alien like species creature? Or they've put the words mythical, so maybe it's not mythical, maybe it's actually a true creature like a dinosaur. We just don't know. All we know is that we've got these guardians and that is pretty much it. We've only got 9 days now until the PC gets one of its final updates. In this update there's going to be a bunch of tech stuff. Everyone's really excited about the fact that Ascension game progression is finally coming. Now it does look like Ascension is tied to the final boss fight, we've had that confirmed in the past. If we take back a Reddit post from 10 months ago, someone collated a lot of information together and I've gone through a couple of these digests and it is true, some of these have come out. It says that you'll be able to tame bosses on a timer, that's why you can actually ride some of the bosses when you use the forced tame command. More speculation on the actual tech caves or the final boss fight. You can see it says involves beating all the bosses, going into the volcano, completing a uber hard dungeon and travelling through a stargate. Now the only thing they've got wrong here is saying beating a final 4th boss. But as we know there's actually 5 bosses, we've had the 4th boss already, which was the Manticore. Now you guys have been on point, you've been putting this in the comments section that you found out from other people and actually reading it yourself. that it looks like will sacrifice your character, resurrecting as a new character containing a soul cube with a progressive level cap. And if done again, it makes the bosses even harder and the changes will come even more. It does look like Ascension's going to be something like Call of Duty's Prestige, where you prestige up and you rank up the next level and reset everything. Now a lot of you were saying that you didn't want that just seems a bit crap. It depends on what the rewards are. If it could be something like where you have all the engrams unlocked and you just have to get to the level and you can just make it, so you don't have to ever worry about maybe choosing what engrams you want to make or do, that could be an idea. And it's interesting what this soul cube idea is. If you take a look at the implants, it does have a bit of information in terms of what it says in the implant. Look on the menu and it mentions something about quotient being, and it gives you some sort of abilities. Jen answered someone what the actual implant specimens were, and she said there was no use other than that PvP tribes like to collect them as trophies. Now again, this was a good while ago. You can see if a description for the specimen implant, it says Homo sapien description, epoch, 74, attributes, intelligence, dexterity, adaptability. Be interesting to see if they add any more specimen implants and whether or not this ties into the Ascension game. Maybe when you ascend you have other things added to it. Maybe it gives you an increase on all your base stats. We just don't know. And lastly, I'm just going to read off much of what we've already seen. This is officially from the actual Steam forums about Ark. When they set up the game, they answered lots of questions so people would know. As for the Ascension endgame progress, it definitely is related to the implant on the character's arms and also the purpose and nature of the Ark itself. It plays into endgame, post-game loop and will be revealing more information about that, exactly how it works over time. And lastly, this last question, in Digest 24, someone asked, will it have unique items, any reason to fight the bosses loads of times? And basically they're just adding more difficulty to the actual bosses every time you ascend. Now, did you know that on official servers, when you fight a boss fight, it is actually harder than doing it on a single player or a private player hosted server? They actually nerfed the single player even more. It's always been easier to fight the bosses on single player than it is on official servers because they don't have as much health. But they recently changed that again and reduced the amount of health that the bosses have on single player. And even if you host your own dedicated server, your actual boss fights will still not scale up with the official bosses. So if you ever go up from working on a single player or a dedicated server to playing on official, be prepared, the bosses are harder because they have more health. So Ascension, yes, it's a fact, it's true, it's coming. It does look like you will reset your character and you will get some sort of bonus, and it does look like it's true, you will have harder difficulty bosses to fight. One of the biggest things that's been in the patch notes for a long time has been BossWars. So what exactly is going to be BossWars? Many people mistakenly thought it was the tech bosses we'd seen where they were made out of the pixels like I showed you earlier. But if you go way back when to October 2015, you can find Jade answering this question. New Chan asks, will bosses ever have a way to acquire them? Even if not by actually taming them, perhaps they could drop an egg, we could hatch into our own of a smaller version of the boss. And Jade has answered, yep, we have a specific system currently in the works for this called BossWars, to allow limited control of bosses in the regular game, that if used effectively will allow even smaller tribes to take on larger ones. Now this is such a forgotten answer, I have not seen anyone come up close to referencing this. And I only found this by looking up something else entirely, and I just come across this question. So BossWars looks like it's not going to be some Ascension progress, it's literally going to be a way that you can make mini bosses. Now I don't think they're going to be mini bosses, I still think they're going to be full size bosses, and it will probably be something like the Titanosaur, you'll have a limited availability of doing it. So maybe when you kill one of the bosses, maybe it will drop an egg, or it will drop an implant, and then you can reproduce that implant using maybe tech cloning chambers or something like that. So BossWars is in the patch notes, and if you've listened to any of my other news stories, I've always told you guys, if it's in the patch notes, it's definitely confirmed. If it's not in the patch notes, take everything that's been said with a pinch of salt. Again, this was like 16-18 months ago nearly, so they may have changed their mind how to implement it, but the fact that it's been in the patch notes for months and months and months is a real good sign that this is actually what's going to happen. So I'm calling it truth. Next up is the Speedboat. For a long time now this has been floated about that this might be something that's coming. So someone asked way back, in fact I think it was 2015 this one was asked, will the idea of rafts be extended with higher tier boats such as motorboats or something alike? I really like rafts but now I want a faster boat. Yep, we have wanted to see how you guys would like rafts and so far the results have been very positive. So the next form of aquatic vehicular travel we're working on would be a speedboat. Now since then they've not released any information about any type of vehicle. There's been nothing really added to the mod kit or development kit. People got excited by this screenshot right here. This is actually just a mod that someone has taken, so this probably is an actual artifact in the development kit that the developers had been working on. But as you can see from this, I don't know if the mod has actually modified it himself or whether or not he's just cut and pasted it into the main game. It doesn't look very Ark-like at all. It doesn't sit very well with tech gear and it doesn't look like much of something that, you know, realistically you would have built. So for now I'm going to go with speedboats being a myth. Jeremy has tweeted in the last 6 months that they're working on more vehicles or certain upgrades to things. Other ideas have been floated around about airships as well. But the fact is there has been no reveals, no additional information and nothing added to the development kit other than an initial prototype that someone has modded. I don't think this is going to be part of the base game at all. I think it will be part of any DLC in the future. We might see something like a speedboat. And I think the same thing for the airships. It does lead us on to another question, can we expect some sort of mechanised transportation system? And then yep, they've said that is something they'd like to see. Again, this was in 2016. So mechanised transport could be something like a steampunk system. But again, there has been no actual real information released about the fact we might have a steamboat. Some of these rumours have been exacerbated by the fact that the Ark Park VR game has got hot air balloons in it. And there are some mods that have used bits of resources to make things like steampunk hot air balloons that I've shown off in the video before. But again, there's just nothing substantial that says they're adding any of this before release. And just finishing off the last bit of information about vehicles, again lots of people have been trying to confirm that there's going to be a dune buggy. And here you can see why. They removed the buggy in this time, it was actually in the game for all of maybe 2 months from the build for now until we resolve the stability of multiple synchronous blah 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 blah. There is a chance it might come to scorched earth in the future. You can see they've answered saying it requires a lot of server performance to handle it properly, but we'll take a look at it next week. Now obviously this was last year, and see if there's some way to squeeze it in without negatively affecting server performance. Again, the fact is I don't think the vehicle is needed and I don't think it's come with their proper vision of what the game should be. Although they have tech items now where you can get around the map very quickly, if you start having buggies and boats and airships, why do you need dinosaurs? And I just can't imagine a buggy rolling around on the map. Even though we have massive dinosaur creatures that are quite versatile and they can get around, they still have quite a limit in terms of their speed, and so it seems natural that they can climb over small hills or go around trees. But having a buggy in the game where you might be going through them same areas just doesn't make sense. The only other place that anyone's actually ever used part of that process of the buggy has been in the Moon mod. The Moon mod is a total conversion mod where there is an actual rover. Now you can see here the shots here, it looks more like a flatbed truck, and there's the front capsule where they were sitting. These items, and I'll be glad if I'm wrong, I think will always form part of a mod package or DLC in the future maybe, but certainly not in the base game and certainly not in the next 3-4 months. Now I'm going to go into some short, quicker ones rather than like ruminating and going over it. I'm just going to be short, sharp and quick. Let's do this. Someone asked way back in December, are we going to get griffins in the game? And Jeremy has put, the real question is, after watching this scene a few dozen times, how could I not? Well, there's nothing in the development kit as such, so at the moment, just like the Griffin, this is complete myth. Alpha herbivores. The reference is a community crunch, and simply put, Jade has just said yes, we will be getting them. So in terms of actual hard evidence it's coming, there has been nothing confirmed about alpha herbivores. No screenshots other than what you've seen in modification kits like a Nuki Genesis. And that's where a lot of these modified systems come from, where you see these dinosaurs, especially herbivore dinosaurs that are got variations on them. It comes from development kit where they probably were making some alpha variations. But the community patch where it said they're actually coming is 2 years old nearly. With nothing else revealed on that, I don't think we're going to see alpha herbivores released in the next few months. So until we get any more concrete evidence about it being added to the game, I'm going to put it as a myth. Is there going to be a physical copy of the game? The developers have multiple times said they're going to release a physical disc edition once the game's fully launched. It probably won't come with the launch of the game. It may be a few months afterwards, but they have had additional time now. That was the plan when they planned to release it either last year in June or when they was going to release it in the holiday season. But now they've had an additional amount of time and they've made a lot more money through the PS4 launch, we could see a disc version come. And just to prove that some things don't always pan out how they initially say, this was a while ago again, someone asked, will we have a desert biome on the current arc? And Jade has replied there's going to be a massive desert. Well, that never actually turned out to be true, it was DLC. So the question was the current arc, not a new arc, not a new map. So development does change and lots of things can be said, and over time these rumours get spread and spread and spread by other YouTubers and forums, and it can be easily spiralled out that we're going to get stuff that we're just simply not. So I hope this video has helped a little bit. I'll be going through more of these in the future. There's just too many to do in one video, and I'll try and keep it a little bit more snappier, but I like to show you where I get the sources from, why I think some of them are truth or false or myths. As ever, for all the best news, the first news, make sure you've got notifications turned on. I'll be back when the new content drops for console on the 24th or 25th, and I'll be showing off all the brand new stuff from PC on the 29th too. I'm Jade Plays Games, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.